Hey there, guys. I've been waiting a few months for this. I'm so excited. Today we are spreading native wildflowers and native warm season grasses. Pollinators have been really impacted over the last few decades by urban development, by production of crops, by pesticides, and we've decided instead of spreading the typical stuff on the property, we're going to go with these natives. I'll show you a list and we'll talk about it, and I'm learning as I go, but we'll demonstrate it as well. Stay tuned. We have some good stuff today. So more than a couple of months we've been talking about this in our own family, and for more than a couple of months I've been thinking about, what do we do here? Do we just sow fescue like everybody else does? Maybe orchard grass? Or do we do something that's gonna last? And so what we've decided, and what I found after having a couple of conversations, one conversation with a local extension service from UT, and then some other dialogue, is that there is a company in Kentucky that provides native seeds, both warm season grasses that I mentioned and wildflowers. And this list that I'm gonna show you here in a few minutes is a list of approximately 18 to 20. And what's great about them is that we will have stuff blooming from early spring until late fall. And this is gonna be native. We won't be required to have the same, it won't be necessary to have the same kinds of fertilizers and limes that other people use and keep their crop growing. We won't have to reseed like other people do. So on the front end, it seems like it costs more, and yet ultimately down the road, it'll cost us a whole lot less because we're using what is already accustomed to living here. So, because the native wildflowers that we're planting in the grasses only weigh a total of about 8 pounds per acre, need a way to be able to spread it over this entire field without losing it all in the very first few yards. So what he suggested was a combination of pelletized lime that we'll mix the seeds into, flour to mark our trail, and then the grass seed. So let's see what the grass seeds are. Okay, so I also threw in a little bit of Ladina clover. Deer love it. And Valley loves picking the 4-leaf clovers that come up. Also some millet, which is kind of an early crop that will come up quickly and then die later. It does not have the same tendency to prevent other crops from growing like wheat and rye do. And because this particular seed grows so tall, I asked them to separate it for me. Here's the packaging they sent me. Brownstone, as I mentioned, is a native seed company from Upton, Kentucky. And so they gave me this list. Here's the list. List of a number of different kinds of wildflowers and warm season grasses. And these bloom in all different colors and bloom from spring until fall. They mixed them all. Typically they mix them all in one batch, but I asked them if they would to please separate the milkweed out, because milkweed is such a tall plant, and so I'll probably sow it along the upper edge here so that it doesn't grow too tall in the middle of the field. So as you look at the list, you'll see that there are a number of plants we recognize: black-eyed Susies, cardinal flower, sedge, bent grass, river oaks, columbine, milkweed, a shorter growing milkweed, and many others. And this combination will start growing sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks, he tells me. That's why the millet will come up almost immediately. And what we're going to try to do is drag this today. Here's the drag. We'll get it drug, and then we'll get it sown, and there's an 85% chance of rain this afternoon, and it's already hazy, as you can see. Okay, let's get to mixing. The variety of seeds in this is excellent. Oh yeah, that's gonna spread nicely. Oh, let's make sure and get all of it out of there. I don't want to lose anything. Let me pick up some and I'll bring it to you. So this is, oh, I just dropped some. That's the variety of seeds. Hopefully you can see that pretty clearly. I'll grab another close-up in a second. That has all different kinds in there. How do you know where you've been when you're spreading? I'm gonna go ahead and mix in the millet. This was 5 pounds of millet to match up with 8 pounds of roundstone seed. This is the millet seed. As you can see, it's similar in size to the clover, maybe slightly larger, but not large at all. So, we got this mix: flour, secret, the roundstone seed, and then the pelletized lime in the bottom. We're gonna add the other half now. And then I'm gonna make myself into a big mess. Okay, there's the pelletized lime on top. Flour. The roundstone seeds. See that mix? Thoroughly mixed together. So we should, once we mix this properly, we should see a little bit of pink, a little bit of yellow, a large number of roundstone seeds. And I don't want to end up with a poor mix, so what I'm going to do is leave this. Let's re-drag the field here and behind the house, and let's get it prepped. What I will note is that even though it's not obvious now, this just behind me along the creek here, behind you, and now going back along the creek here, this was the original roadbed for this community. Little side note, I've counted in the 70s, there were 6 or 7 structures, 6 or 7 homes up beyond this house, up in the holler there. So you all have noticed before that the electric lines continue on past our property. But not only that, but there were a half a dozen families living up in here. And at some point, I'm gonna let a local man share a story of his parents and pretty catastrophic thing that happened to them back in 1933. You know what? How about we play that recording while we do this work?
Well, that was 1930. I think it was Election Day, and they had been to Gaines Chapel, my mother and daddy. That was Belva. She was a McCarter.
Mm-hmm.
And my daddy, of course, was a Parton, come out of Greenville.
Oh, yeah, right, like all the Partons.
Yeah, and they had went to election, and it had rained all day, and they come back home, and my dad had put his shoes in the warmer on the old wood stove
Okay.
to dry them,
Right.
and he just went on to bed. And my mother, when that shook the ground up there, she got him up, told him.
How late was it?
10, I believe, 10 or 11 o'clock.
So it was well after dark. What time of year was it? Oh, so if it was election, it was November.
No. I guess election.
Okay.
I'm bad.
That's all right. Story doesn't change that much.
When you get 82, things don't go too. No, that's.
So she woke up, heard, or she felt vibrations, or heard.
Yeah, she hadn't been in the bed.
Okay.
So she got him up, and they, of course, I think he put his shoes on, and they walked down. The next house down was Jake Parton and Richard and Alice. That was the ones that lived right below them.
Right.
They went down there, and they got up and took the quilts off of the bed and put the lamp in the doorway and left the door open and without a globe, and they went up on the hill and spent.
Look and see.
And
Really?
Yeah, and they could hear when that water hit the house. They could hear it. My mother and daddy's house. It didn't take Jake's out, but that light burned all night with that rain. They said that just soaked those quilts just in a few minutes.
Wow.
Know? So they sat up there till daylight.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had to be out in the rain or at least on wet ground, waiting for that.
No, it's in the rain.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
They had a similar story, Webb Creek losing a few families from a flood like that, but I hadn't heard the stories about Laurel Creek flooding.
Oh yeah, it washed down that way. Yeah, that one come up there, and that was I can tell you, what was their names? The one.
I've read about them. I don't remember. Webb Creek's got a wider, bigger watershed, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of them wound up down here in the Sucks. The ambulance wound up in the Sucks.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's another story I haven't heard.
Yeah.
So you're saying the ambulance was parked up here at Webb Creek?
Well, I guess it was their community thing.
No way.
Now this is someone else had told me.
That's all right. You know, the only way we can get stories is some of them are written down and some of them aren't, right?
Yeah,
well, Mr. Donald, it's nice meeting you. Interesting story, especially as you look at the house here. You can see its proximity to the creek, and often people would have been even closer or lower and would have built inside the floodplain not knowing they were in the floodplain until a big heavy storm came. These mountains are known for having pretty significant cloudbursts like we hear about in other parts of the country, but what happens in these cloudbursts is that this watershed is one localized area of, let's say, 500 acres, and those mountainsides all dump into one stream bed that comes down, and that means problems for people downstream sometimes. As it turns out, the flower doesn't work quite right. I got plenty of it on myself though. So I spread it in the back. Hopefully that's enough. Maybe I'll use some leftovers. So we have finished all of our spreading except for this last one. This is the milkweed, which is the tallest of all of the wildflowers that are going to be growing here. So I asked them to separate this one out, and I am going to mix this with the last remaining quarter or so of seed. And we'll mix this together, and then I'm going to spread it along the edges so we get a little more height along the hillside and maybe along the creek a little bit, but not so much in the middle. Now, wait and see, right? Some of y'all been through this same process. Most everybody's tried to sow grass seed or something before. I will be nervous until we see this start greening up. Of course, the first thing will be millet. It'll be a little while before we see wildflowers and native grasses. And treasures all the time.